In the golden heart of Lagos, a city that never truly sleeps, stood a skyscraper wrapped in glass and light, home to the empire of one of Africa's youngest billionaires, Kendrick Okoro. At just 31, he was the face of innovation, a tech prodigy whose ideas had spread from Nigeria to New York, from Africa's dusty roads to Silicon Valley's boardrooms. Magazines called him the future Elon Musk of Africa. But what those glossy covers never showed was the emptiness behind his eyes, because Kendrick's world was filled with noise, the constant hum of meetings, money, and meaningless compliments. Yet in that noise, his heart had forgotten the sound of peace. Every success had cost him a piece of himself. He was raised in a mansion of marble, but starved of warmth. He had friends in luxury jets, but no one to talk to at midnight. And when it came to love, his story was a graveyard of betrayal. Gold diggers who saw his heart as a bank account, social climbers who used his name like a stepping stone, liars wearing the mask of affection, whispering sweet promises until his trust ran dry. Each heartbreak left a scar that money couldn't heal. That night, after yet another soulless business dinner filled with fake laughter and empty toasts, Kendrick sat in his car, staring at the city lights. Millions of windows glowing, yet none felt like home. He leaned back, loosened his tie, and whispered, almost to himself, "Is this all life is? Meetings, money, and silence?" His driver, an older man named Tunde, glanced at him through the mirror. "Sir, should I take you home?" Kendrick hesitated, then sighed. "No, take me anywhere, somewhere quiet." Tunde blinked. "Sir, it's late. Just drive," Kendrick interrupted softly. Those two words would change everything. As the car rolled out of Victoria Island's shining streets into the quieter edges of Lagos, the city began to shift, from skyscrapers to slums, from neon lights to flickering bulbs, from polished marble to muddy roads. The rain had just stopped, and the smell of wet dust and smoke hung in the air. Kendrick leaned against the window, watching strangers laughing by roadside fires, children chasing tires, lovers sharing corn under umbrellas. For the first time in years, he felt something stir inside him, a strange calm, a human rhythm he'd forgotten existed. Then it happened. A wave of smell drifted through the half-open window, smoky jollof rice, fried plantain, and spicy pepper soup. It was intoxicating, real, alive. He frowned slightly. "Stop here." The driver slowed down beside a small, roadside stall. It was nothing fancy, just a wooden table, 2 benches, and a big steaming pot lit by a single lantern. Behind it stood a girl, her skin glowing in the dim light, her hands moving gracefully as she served food. That woman was Fideke. Sweat glistened on her brow, but her smile could melt steel. There was strength in her simplicity, elegance in her struggle. Her clothes were plain, her apron stained, but her eyes carried the kind of peace Kendrick had been searching for all his life. She didn't notice the luxury car parked nearby, or the man in the back seat who couldn't look away. To her, it was just another night of survival, another night feeding strangers, so she could feed her younger siblings the next morning. Kendrick stepped out. The soft thud of his Italian shoes on the dirt startled her. She looked up, eyes widening slightly at the sight of this tall, well-dressed man standing by her stall. He smiled faintly. "Do you have something warm?" She blinked, surprised by the gentleness in his tone. "Yes, sir. Jollof rice, pepper soup, fried fish." He nodded. "I'll have all 3. As she served, Their eyes met again, just for a moment. And in that moment, one tired of pretending and one too busy surviving to pretend. He took the first spoonful. It wasn't just food, it was comfort. The warmth of her cooking spread through him like sunlight after rain. He hadn't felt that kind of peace in years. She noticed his quietness. "You don't look like someone who eats by the roadside often," she said, half smiling. He chuckled softly. "Maybe that's the problem." They both laughed, a small, fragile sound in the note. For Kendrick, it was the first real laughter in months. He asked her name. "Fadeke," she said proudly. "It means crown has been cared for." He smiled. "Beautiful name, suits you." She asked for his. "Kendrick." She raised an eyebrow. You sound important." He shrugged. "Maybe I used to be." That answer stayed with her, and as the night went on, the rain began again, softly tapping the tin roof above. He stayed longer than he intended. She talked about her dreams, to open a small restaurant, to give her siblings a better life, to prove that kindness could still win in a cruel world. He listened, really listened, and something inside him shifted. He realized how starved he'd been for realness. He left quietly that night, but not before slipping a folded note beside the pot. When Fadeka found it later, her heart skipped. It wasn't money, but a small message. "Your food healed me tonight. I'll be back." She didn't know that the man she'd fed was worth billions. She didn't know that fate had just tied their destinies together. And as Kendrick's car disappeared into the Lagos mist, he looked out the window. Not at the skyline this time, but at his reflection. For the first time in years, his reflection was smiling. Sometimes love doesn't walk into our lives dressed in diamonds. Sometimes it arrives smelling of smoke, sweat, and jollof rice, and still feels like heaven. And deep inside, Kendrick knew. He hadn't just eaten food that night. He'd tasted the beginning of something real. That night, Kendrick couldn't sleep. He had dined in the finest restaurants across continents. Yet it was the taste of that roadside meal and that girl's fearless simplicity that lingered in his soul. People said billionaires don't fall in love, they invest in people. But what happens when the heart disobeys the market? Days turned into weeks. Every evening, Kendrick's black car would quietly pull up at Fade's stall. At first, she thought it was coincidence, but soon she realized he came not for the food, but for peace. He'd sit there like a man escaping his own empire, sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, searching for something no luxury could buy. Silence that listened back. Fade would laugh at his serious talk, tease him about his fancy shoes, and tell stories of survival that money could never understand. She was uneducated in the formal sense, but wise in the ways of pain, patience, and prayer. Somehow, between burnt curries and borrowed smiles, they built something fragile yet fierce, a love that had no logic, only truth. Then came the night the sky broke open, rain pouring, thunder trembling. Her small shed began to leak, but Kendrick didn't flinch. He stood, removed his jacket, and helped her cover the pots with plastic. She smiled faintly, shivering. "You're not too proud for this," he replied softly. Pride never kept anyone warm. Their connection deepened, pure, gentle, forbidden. But the world loves to destroy what it doesn't understand. Word spread. Social media caught pictures of Kendrick at the stall. Bloggers mocked her, the billionaire's village girl send. Board members whispered. His mother called from the US, furious. "You'll throw your legacy away for a street vendor?" Kendrick replied, "Maybe for the first time, I'm choosing what's real." But fate wasn't done testing them. One night, Fade's stall was mysteriously burned down. People said it was an accident, but Kendrick knew better. A jealous business rival had staged it, and rumors started that Fade sold company secrets. News headlines exploded. Billionaire betrayed by local girlfriend. Fade's face was everywhere, painted as a liar. Kendrick's company shares crashed. Investors withdrew. His mother demanded he cut ties immediately. In tears, Fade tried to call him, but Kendrick's number was off. The world she never asked for had crushed her. For days, she wandered the streets, clutching her burnt recipe book, her only memory of what she had built with her hands. But destiny wasn't silent, for when love is written by the divine, even ashes remember the shape of what once burned bright. A week later, Kendrick discovered the truth. The rival's assistant confessed. It was all a setup, a cruel game of power and envy. The moment Kendrick heard it, his world stopped spinning. The guilt crushed him more than the betrayal itself. He doubted the only person who ever looked at him without wanting anything in return. That night, he didn't call his driver. He drove himself through the empty streets, headlights slicing through the dark. Every turn of the wheel felt like repentance. He searched alley after alley, market after market, until he saw her. Fade sat near the old church gate, under the flickering streetlight, feeding stray dogs with the last crumbs she had. Her clothes were torn, her eyes tired, yet there was still kindness in her face, the kind that no fire could burn away. When she saw him, she froze, as if time itself had held its breath. "Why are you here?" she whispered, her voice trembling. Kendrick stepped closer, soaked from the night rain. "Because I finally learned what love costs," he said quietly, "and I'm ready to pay it." He knelt in the mud, his tears mixing with the rain as the city stilled around them. Passers-by stopped, sensing something sacred unfolding. "Fideki," he said, voice breaking. "I lost money, I lost friends, but I can't lose you." Fate stared at him, disbelief fighting the love that still lived behind her pain. "You really mean that?" she whispered. He nodded, eyes glistening. "You were the only truth in my world of lies." And that night, under the dim light of a forgotten church, she finally forgave him. Not because he asked perfectly, but because her heart was built to heal. Months later, the city woke to a new name in gold letters: Fade's Flame. Kendrick rebuilt her stall, but this time grander, brighter, standing exactly where the ashes once lay. It wasn't just a restaurant. It was a resurrection, a story carved in fire and forgiveness. Fade still refused to stop cooking, even after Kendrick proposed. "This food fed me when the world forgot me," she smiled. "How can I stop serving what once kept me alive?" Their wedding was nothing like the magazines imagined. No ballroom, no champagne towers, just a garden, a few close souls, and laughter wrapped in prayer. Even Kendrick's mother stood speechless as Fade gently placed before her a steaming bowl of jollof rice, the same dish that had started it all. For the first time, the mother smiled, a quiet acceptance that love had won. Years passed, and their love became legacy. Together they built community kitchens across Africa, where the poor were fed in the name of dignity, not charity. Kendrick would often tell interviewers, his eyes soft with memory, "The woman who sold food by the roadside taught me the real recipe of life: humility, honesty, and love." And that, my friend, is how a young billionaire found true love, not in the glass towers of power, but in the humble arms of a roadside food vendor. Because sometimes the richest hearts are found in the poorest places. So, my people, if this story touched your heart, don't just pass by. Leave a comment, drop a heart for true love, and subscribe this channel.